Hello everybody, this is Claudia here for We Don't Care, and today is my pleasure to talk to Duncan Lorien.
Nice to meet you.
So we're meeting here in Vienna, and you're a teacher now at the moment in a seminar, and you're talking about simplicity instead of all the complex stuff that's happening in music. So how did that start in your life?
Well, it started off when I was about 8 years old. I would have people, my friends, would come over to the house and I would show them simple things on the keyboard, and their parents would come to pick them up and say, "Oh, can you show me what you just showed my son or daughter to do?" And I started to teach them. And by the time I was 8.5, I had about 37 students a week. So, and it kind of grew from there. By the time I was 14, that had increased to 165 students. So the seminars that I deliver have become a necessity. I couldn't handle the number of people that wanted lessons.
So you've done quite a number of jobs. I mean, you're like a producer, for example. So in all these roles that you take on, what is the difference in your everyday, working pattern?
Wow. Now I focus on delivering the seminars. I'm traveling 8.5 months of each year, literally hundreds of thousands of kilometers, all over the world, everywhere, Europe, South America, Australia, Far East, Singapore. And so now this is my focus. I was very fortunate. I had a couple of #1 CDs a long time ago and worked on several others, and worked as a producer. And I had my time of really enjoying being a musician, and I've always felt the passion to share what I do. Yeah. So this is now my life, and this is what I do, and 8.5 months of the year I'm away from home and I'm traveling around the world.
So when you are working with musicians in your seminars or in studio or wherever, then I guess that you have a certain way of dealing with people, with humanity as such. So what is the things that are really important, you think, when working together?
Well, you have to remember that most people will come to a subject like music with baggage. They already have some pieces they've picked up. Even the person who says, "Oh, I know nothing about music," when you investigate, you find out, oh yes, they know a little about this, and they've heard about that. And so it's very important to listen. And I think that is the key. The key is not so much what you say as a teacher as to listen to what that person is telling you. And if you listen carefully enough, they'll tell you what the problems are. And I've always said this, whenever I share what I do as a teacher, I try to instill in people the gift of continuous listening. And I think most teachers do start out that way, but it's very, very difficult to maintain over your teaching career. But it is the secret.
And there's a lot of people talking about genres forever and ever. So what do you think is the difference in the genres? Is there any at all, or is it important, or is it just a guideline?
I think if you look at music as a language,
yeah,
any language has dialects.
Right.
So whether we say genres, whether we say rock or pop or classical or folk or reggae or whatever it might be, hip hop, techno, trance, whatever it might be, these are just different dialects of the same language. And basically the same structure lies at the base of all of them. I always talk to my composition students from the viewpoint of, you can focus on, I call it interior design. How many pot plants should we have? What kind of lighting should we have? What kind of fabric do we want on the chairs? But the reality is, you have to first learn how to build 4 walls, a floor, and a ceiling. When you can do that, you have a structure. And that is composition. You teach people how to build little blocks, rooms, and then you can worry about how you decorate them. And that is genre. That is, how you decorate it in this style or that style. But if the underlying structure itself is not strong, It doesn't matter. You can decorate it however you like, but it will not communicate.
So talking about communication as what is important in music, I had one musician say in the interview that music, the thing that is happening between the musician and the people, that is what is important to him, and not if it sounds beautiful to him for his gusto, you know.
Yeah. I think if you understand that music is not like a language, but it is a language, that it's going to follow exactly the same rules as any other language. If I'm talking to you, I'm talking to you. I'm not looking at my hands. I'm not staring off into space. I mean, if I did that, you would think, oh, he's a little rude, you know. Well, I often feel this way with musicians. You know, you see them up on stage, and and if they look up, they might look at each other and nod occasionally, but it's almost like the audience are a secondary. And then when you see those artists that really know how to connect with their audiences, it's an experience. I mean, otherwise, why go to a concert? You know, you could stay at home, listen to the CD, and get the same effect. And I think it's like, if you get the concept that the only thing that's really important is the communication, and that the technique, although important, is secondary to the level of communication. I often use the illustration of the boy that maybe had only learnt, I don't know, 4 chords, and can only play 2 of those well. He goes on stage, but he's in such communication with his audience that the audience aren't worried about his technique. A good example, Bob Dylan. Bob Dylan is an amazing performer. If you've ever seen him, you know what I'm talking about. But technique, his voice is, you know, not the greatest in the world. But 10 minutes into a concert, you've completely forgotten, because he's got you enthralled with the communication. And that's where you find your Beatles and your Elton Johns and all these people that you really connect with.
So what is for you the definition of artist? Like, what is an artist? Are you an artist?
Well, I'd like to think so. Art for me is about simply the quality of communication. It doesn't have to be something I like. It could be something that could annoy me. It could be something I intensely dislike. But it has to produce some emotional reaction in me. People often talk about modern art, and modern art is not, you know, I don't get anything from this pile of bricks over there. But then you can see a pile of bricks that you kind of go, yeah, I can kind of see what the, well, that's art. Yeah, because it's saying something to you. Now, it might not say the same thing to every single person, but the key to is it art and are you an artist is, does what you create communicate? And if it doesn't, then by definition, I don't think you can call it art.
So when there's like people on stage doing whatever they're doing, and it's not totally everything they are doing at the moment that the people hear. So there's like a playback, or there is whatever things used. Is that still an artist because of the other things people are doing?
Yeah, I think, look, you go to a show for the experience.
Yeah.
Today, we expect, with the quality of our recording level, everyone expects perfection. You know, if you heard a CD with somebody singing some notes that weren't quite correct, or, you know, wrong notes in the playing, you would say, oh no, this is not a very good. But life is not like that. Life contains mistakes, and it contains. So I think, as long as, yes, you can use playbacks, you can use tapes, you can use whatever you can to enhance the product. But the moment that stuff starts taking away from the emotional experience, then it's baggage. You've got to let it go. It's better to go on stage, unplugged, with a guitar. And I've always said, you know, if you, as a band, you're in the middle of a set, you suddenly lose all power. There's no power. Everything's gone. If you cannot instantly transfer into an acoustic set, then you are not working as artists.
So everybody get your guitars now without any electricity.
But I think that's a very good illustration. It's like true artists use whatever they have at their disposal and use it to the best of their ability. And it's when the mechanics, the technical aspects of this start to overwhelm that you lose the entire purpose.
And the life of artists is like, you know, a fairy tale to some people. Like, they're stars standing on these, you know, beautiful scenes that are set with all the beautiful lights and all these people applauding, and everything is so wonderful. And all they're doing is going on stage and enjoying.
I think, look, it is very tempting to look at the life an artist has and see only the upside. There are downsides too. Most of the people who think about, oh, I'd like to be in the position of this actor or the position of this musical star, simply think, oh, it's a perfect life. But would you like the fact that you can never just go out and buy a pizza?
Yeah.
Because if you go out and buy a pizza, there's a crowd of people and you're now causing a problem for the police. The crowd is coming. Would you like the fact that your children have to have protection all the time in case some crazy guy comes along and wants to, kidnap them or something? That's the downside of the life. And yes, there's so much positive, but the reality is there's two sides to every coin. And you cannot have, quote, fame and switch it off. You know, once you say you are in the public eye, you are always in the public eye. And to that degree, you're a property. You are a property of the public, and not everyone likes that.
So what to do with all the not very reflective, critical people who are like just critical but have no idea what is behind things?
Criticism has a place, as long as it's constructive.
Yeah.
If someone has something, says, oh, why don't you try that? Or have you thought about this? Or maybe that could be better. But criticism for criticism's sake. I generally find that people who are what I call professional critics are critics because they can't. They themselves can't create as artists, so they find fault in others. There's nothing wrong with finding something where you can feel you can help someone and pointing that out. But when it's criticism just for if you see a film and you say, not the greatest film I've ever seen, but somebody says, well, what do you think? You go, okay, go and see, make up your own mind. Right. Somebody put their life into that thing. Somebody spent 2 years, 3 years creating it. Don't put it down. Give it other people a chance to see it. That's their artistic create.
Right. When there's young people starting out music, like, okay, they know how to play their instruments. They probably also know how to behave in a good way on stage, like communicating with other musicians, you know. What do you think is all the stuff behind the production they might not see at first?
I always say in my seminars, you look up on stage and you go, what a gift, what a talent. And it's so unfair. You know, this person was an overnight success. There's no overnight successes. It's hundreds, often thousands of hours of repetition. And what you see up on stage is a fluent performance that's been created from hours of repetition. Right. So before you're in a hurry just to say, he's a natural, it's so simple. There's a lot of work that's gone into that. And I think a lot of people don't understand how much time goes into putting on a performance that looks flawless. Every dance move, every song, every note. In painting, you go, he paints pictures. How much painting has that person done to be able to create that? So I think the key is, if you're an artist, yes, you've got to go into it with your eyes wide open, and you've got to know that you're entering a path of enormous repetition. But if you're passionate about what you're doing, then you're willing to invest that repetition.
And you're willing to do all the jobs that go along with going on
always.
stage, right?
I've always said, if you're not willing, you're on stage, there's a concert going on, and there's something that needs to happen. Somebody needs an extra cable. Somebody needs the floor swept. If you are not willing just to to pick up a brush and swing, then you really haven't got the concept of what it is to be an artist. You're being a star, you know, and that's, you know, and it's like, there's a lot of pleasure in helping someone else to be able to create and helping them getting their communication across. And that's, for me, is what art is all about.
So artists you've been working with, some of them quite famous, I guess, huh? Did you ever feel like you wanted to change something they did, or did you ever change anything they did in their music?
No, I don't think I changed. I like to think that I've been able to enhance and be able to zero in on some of the aspects of their communication which perhaps weren't as strong as they wanted them to be. And then again, I pointed things out, and sometimes they've used them and sometimes they haven't. But where I can point something out and be to zero in, I think one of the things, a good example of this is a song. A song is 4 minutes.
Right.
That's not a long time to get your point across. And you see a lot of beginning songwriters, especially with writing words, the words will waffle, they go all over the place. And the skill of being able to write a precise line that says exactly what you want to say, that's, again, repetition.
Just getting to the point.
Yes, getting to the point.
So, is there any connection to, since I'm doing a lot of interviews with metal bands, is there any connection to metal bands also with you, or is that something you kind of left out?
You know, I can go back. I can go back and mention, you know, some of the early metal bands I worked with, and I've worked with people from bands as diverse as Deep Purple, 10 Years After, so that goes right the way back, you know. So yeah, I've had my experience back in those days, but yeah, I don't see, sometimes metal is looked on, I mean, here's a fact, metal's been around for 50 years. It's been around a long time. There's a reason it's around for a long time.
Right.
It's because it is a very direct communication. It is a very positive in the most cases, and it's also energetic. It's also, you know, I think there's a point in your life where you just want to sort of go out there and just, you know, some thrash metal, just get out there and some noise and let loose. And why should this be a lesser art form?
Okay.
You know, it's the difference. You know, not everything has to be a Botticelli or a Leonardo da Vinci.
Yeah.
You know, you get people who will, you know, create paintings by throwing pots of paint up on the wall. Does that make it less of an art? You know, no. If the communication comes across, absolutely.
And you felt the communication is about values in life also in metal?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, well, yeah. I mean, you know, we could start here and we could get into talking about specific songs, but yes, absolutely. Yeah.
So, anything you want to give us, like a last point you really want to reinforce and say, this is really important?
Yes, I would say if you are finding yourself getting sucked into complexity, you know, I need to learn that type of chord, or you know, I've got to make that solo more interesting. You know, just remember, you know, that a lot of the people that are out there who, you know, we really think of as being specialists in their art form. Let's take an Eric Clapton.
Right.
Eric Clapton can do more with 3 notes than a lot of guitarists can do with 300.
Oh yeah.
and I think that is the key. It is like, get into the concept of less is more, not more is more. Refine your art. What you do, be passionate about it, but constantly be willing to revisit, to refine, simplify. You know, simplification is not a wrong thing in life.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.